What's going on, Soul Tribe? I salute the divinity in you, and welcome to the Chariot Friends. Justin here, and how you feeling? The moon is in Aquarius, and this is always, I think, a really great one to just think about your vision, think about where we're going. Great time for socializing and just getting an idea of, just even where collectively where we're all going. And I think that's going to be something. There's some deep stuff that I think we're gonna kind of talk about in here in this reading today. In all of this, we got some really cool imagery and Sabian symbols, general energy. We'll see what the tarot's got in store. But before we jump into that, if you're new here, again, my name is Justin, and know that when you're coming across this video, you're in sync with the moon, and who doesn't love that? But this is also a place for you if you happen to have Cancer in your placements, Sun, Moon, Rising, maybe Saturn, wherever. This one's for you, but we all have a Cancer portion in our chart. We all benefit from syncing up with the moon, so this is you. Just kick back. Just kick it. You're all invited here. And I do tarot card spreads, amongst other things, based off that lovely luminary, the good old moon. And I'll talk about what sign it's in, what phase it's in, when it's going void of course, just all them lunar shenanigans. And just so you're all aware, this is a general reading, not a one-to-one, so take what fits into your story, discard the rest, and everything will be dope. Now, let's jump into it, because this is, I got a lot of material to cover over here today. It's not too crazy, but we're going to be chatting today, and it's an air moon, so of course I'm going to be chatty. But before we jump into that, depending on when you're watching this, happy Saturn Day. Saturn is associated. Oh, not appropriate. Saturn being here on I love it, but Saturn's associated with Saturday. And one thing that I like to do with the day of Saturn is just it's a great day for just getting down to business. I know usually that's sometimes that's some people's weekend and it's just woo. But you know what? Before we woo, we want to make sure that we have all of our responsibilities and things in order, which I know is kind of like boo. But I find with Saturn, when we keep up with our responsibilities, when we keep up with those things, then we're less scrambling. When we have to deal with those things anyway. So if you've been doing any sort of procrastinating, or if you have a task that's going to just require a lot of you, that's going to be maybe a little arduous, a little toiling, Saturn energy can be great for that, for helping you to just all right, let's get to the grind, head down, do the things, not worry about it. Maybe you got to straighten up around the house, maybe you got to do paperwork, maybe you got to have a conversation, make some phone calls, again, whatever that's looking like. I find that Saturn days or even Saturn hours can be just great motivators. I especially love a Saturn hour when it's just is one thing when Saturn sneaks up on me. I'm just oh. But when I'm on it and then I see him in a Saturn hour, I'm just okay, dope. We're in the energy. So those could just be some ways to work with these planetary days and hours. But another way that I like working with them too, and there's some magical practices that go into that as well. But also one thing that I like doing with the Saturn days is thinking about my relationship with Saturn. Not just and I have been thinking about it quite a bit, my natal position of Saturn, but also how do I do with planets aspecting my Saturn placement, and also how do I deal with Saturn aspecting my natal placements. And I'm actually in the middle of one right now. Saturn getting ready to move into Aries is forming a sextile with my moon placement. I'm actually really excited about that. I've been really kind of feeling some changes are coming. I got some really, I think, nice things that are getting ready to come up here soon, at least what I have planned. And it's nice, when you have easier transits that are happening with Saturn, I say you take those and you run with them. So it can be really good to be thinking about, and that's going to be hitting my moon placement about 3 times, that sextile. So I think some doors are opening there. So that'd be something, especially, with Saturn getting ready to move into a new sign. Get eyes on that. Is Aries a portion of the chart that is very active for you? Do you have are you like me, have a lot of fire placements? Maybe you have a lot of air placements. That's opportunities. If it's Libra, that's oppositions. But if it's Aquarius, again, opportunities. So Libra and Gemini, we're doing it. But in this could be, if you got cardinal placements, you want to get eyes on that, because that might be Saturn's coming. And it's not to be afraid. But if you've been slacking off, then let's get to it. But enough about Saturn. let's get into the lunar shenanigans. Because on the 17th of May, depending on when you're watching this, the moon is going to enter into Aquarius at about 10:30 p.m., and that's going to be Pacific time. And I'll talk about the last quarter phase here in a moment. But when you just think about the moon in Aquarius, this can be a really great time for, just like, of course, Aquarius being the air sign, or being an air sign, this can be a great time for socializing. Aquarius gets associated with like the groups and things, so maybe doing some sort of like group activities, things like that, maybe hanging out with friends, maybe going into, yeah, some sort of like maybe get together gathering, whatever that might look like for you. But I find Aquarius, they're traditionally ruled by Saturn, and them being the fixed air sign, they're active or young in nature. Aquarius is the visionary, and I think that this vision is, yes, it's your great vision, but it's going to be something that, of course, will affect the collective, in the long run. And I find that Aquarius time, similar to Capricorn, is really thinking about your long term. Like, what is my grand picture? Based on the things that are going on and the way that I feel that I'm changing and I think that I'm changing. How is that evolving? And how does even maybe the way of thinking? Because again, Aquarius, where that's nice, I think a real superpower is that Aquarius is one, if they can hold it in their head, they can hold it in their hand. I think more than any other sign, but there's a double-edged sword with the air energy, because it pays to see, like, are there any sort of like limiting beliefs, any sort of limiting thoughts that you've been holding on to as well, that's maybe hindering your great vision, or even helping, maybe even hindering others to achieve their great vision. So that might be something to look into, to see who you've been communicating with, but also how you've been communicating with yourself. And have we been getting into some sort of like self-fulfilling prophecies? I think that's something that can happen with Aquarius pretty often. And I don't say often, but it's it's just something that can happen. And so it's like, if there are any sort of like energies ways that we can get unstuck, which we're going to get into your general energy, I think that's something that really kind of ties in well with that. So just some things to think about with the moon in Aquarius. But let's go ahead and switch over to talk about the last quarter phase here. Let me get my handy dandy drawer open. Then the colors are over there. I got to figure out how to fix that. But you have the last quarter phase is when you have the sun here wrapping up its time in Taurus. We'll be in Gemini season before we know it. And then you have the moon here, and this is happening at 29 degrees and 43 minutes. So if you have any planets or points around this sign, especially around like the fixed signs, this one may be working more personally with you. So that's something to keep in mind. This is actually, they're separating, but it's coming up on my moon, or actually both of them will be applying to my moon placements, and they're separating from my Venus placement. So this one is an actually pretty active one for me. And yeah, it actually it's making sense with what I'm going to be about doing here soon. So yeah, definitely there's a way to work with that as well. But when the sun and the moon are square one another, this is different from the first quarter, where we're taking we're initiating things. We're initiating from the last quarter, but in a different way. We set that intention during the new moon. We took that action during the first quarter. We saw the results from the full moon. And now this last quarter is like, okay, based on the results that I got, what are some things maybe that I need to let go, or what are some things maybe that I need to continue to sustain? Maybe we're tweaking in this last quarter phase here. But usually in the waning phase, this is looking at the things that, okay, in order for this thing to come to fruition, something else is going to maybe need to find a way to make some more space for this thing, taking some sort of action here. So, and this may be a tougher one, where we're, as far as like the letting go of things, just because this lunation is happening with fixed energy, and the fixed signs all have a capacity to hold on to things really tight. They have that staying power, which is a really wonderful trait of theirs, but sometimes too, they can hold on to things for the sake of holding on to things. I was actually just talking with the Taurus not too long ago, and it was just like, he was telling me that they're like a low key hoarder. I'm just like, well, we're gonna work on that. But Yeah, just some things I think to think about. If there's anything that's been like impeding, and we have a lot of energy here. If you just happen to notice, we have a lot of planets here. I'm just really kind of looking at this too. Saturn here is at 29 degrees of Pisces. We're about to have a lot of planetary changes here over this next week, honestly. So this is some things to kind of get some eyes on. Some things are changing. So what are some ways that you need to make space in order for the changes to come, or how do you need to expand oneself in order to make these changes to come? And but one last thing I wanted to talk about here, Venus and Mars are coming up on a trine with one another so soon. That energy is building. So the things that you want to attract, the relationships that you're wanting to form, the things that you're wanting to create, there's a lot of flow that's coming through with that. That fire energy is getting riled up with Venus and Mars. And this is a great relation, like a great conversation for them to be having when they're working in the trines. Again, that's movement. So just some things I think to think about with whatever this is applying to your life. If this was, say, for example, we're working with a Taurus rising here, there may be something in your career space that maybe you're thinking about letting go. Like, okay, you wanted to begin this new action. Maybe you wanted to start a new health routine, or maybe you wanted to start a new project. Maybe you wanted something that you wanted to be mastered. You want to be recognized for something different. So it's like, what do you need to let go in order to, or what are some actions that you can take to make that dream really come to fruition? Because I like that this square is happening too between air and earth, because the moon is like, okay, I have these thoughts, and the sun is like, let's give that thing form. Let's really make let's ground this thing in the reality. So I really like this lunation, what's going on here. But let's go ahead. I'm going to switch back over here for a moment. And we're going to talk about the Sabian symbol for this one, because this is a really deep one. This is probably one of the longest ones of the Sabian symbols. It's a mouthful. We're going to talk about the one for the moon first. It's phase 302 of Aquarius. And this one speaks of deeply rooted in the past of a very ancient culture, a spiritual brotherhood in which many individual minds are merged into the glowing light of a unanimous consciousness is revealed to one who has emerged successfully from his metamorphosis. So there's a lot that's going on in that one, and that even really calls upon the collective power of Aquarius. But it takes all of the individuals in order to make that collective consciousness come to form, and there's power in that. But the keynote for this one is the ability for the person with an open mind and a deep feeling for self-transcendence to come in contact with higher forms of existence. And so this really is, I think, with this lunation, this can be one where, I mean, like, it may be something that seems small, maybe in the micro, maybe these changes that you're making, but this metamorphosis, when we continue on this constant change and accept and participate in this change, the light that we come into does get a lot bigger. We start attracting more of the people who are our soul tribe, in a sense. And because when we all have this unified vision, again, whatever this vision is for you, it's when you're in your divine calling, when you're that true calling, then that's only going to elevate everybody here. And I think that there's something with looking at how we participate as an individual and as a group. I just went to a concert the other day, and that was something that I found myself not really in the concert, but I found myself more observing that kind of call and response, like that sort of collective gathering. And when people are there to support, because I didn't know who the artist was at the time, I just got invited to this thing. And it was just really fascinating to see how the energies come together, and how it can honestly, how sometimes the collective can sound when it's excited about something. It was just a lot of interesting thoughts that kind of came through here. But I think that this is a time with this. There's something about this lunation I feel is inviting all of us to think bigger, to feel deeper, and again, that's for whatever it looks like for you, whatever chapter that you're at. And there's, I don't, it's, I'm not, I no one can tell you what that looks like for you, and that's another thing here too, where we are in this sense of brotherhood. We all come to that brotherhood, sisterhood, hood, just in yeah, man, it's an interesting one to try to articulate here, what I'm feeling, but it's I what I think sometimes can happen where, I think for maybe a while there's just been this sort of like plateau, or maybe this is sort of like, maybe I don't want to say stagnation, but I think that the energies of with how active it's been is trying to stir us into something here and try to really have us put our gifts on display, because the Sabian symbol for the sun is phase 60 of Taurus, and this talks about a peacock parading on the terrace of an old castle. So there's a lot of calling even to very ancient parts of oneself, and I think that that can just, whether, yes, it can maybe deal with ancestry, and I think that it invites us to look at how people used to collect or used to relate to one another more as a collective than as an individual. We've just, I think, shifted, as if you kind of observe society over generations. I think it's just more recent that it's shifted into this more kind of self focus, like maybe that people have gotten so lost in the group, but I don't think that it's something where we want to forget the group as well. That's just another little extra thing. But the keynote for this is the personal display of inherited gifts. So this is a time for you, for all of us, again, to put our gifts on display. This is not a peacock. Is not one that just I mean, if you've seen one, I mean, they're just fanning their feathers. They do this dance. It's a whole it's a whole thing, and they're loud about it. If you've ever heard a peacock, I used to live in Florida, in this one place, and there was this neighborhood. It was just a cul-de-sac of peacocks, which in theory sounds lovely, and in certain aspects of it was, but the peacock also is a very loud bird. It's not doesn't sound as graceful or as beautiful as it looks, and I think that's something to keep in mind, that this is not about competing with one another. It's not like who's trying to be the loudest, who's trying to be the brightest. It's just you being the brightest and the loudest, period. And then all of that song that you put out there will attract, because even though the peacocks sound like they do, they still get mates. So it's attracting those who hear your song. There's something in there as well, but we can't see those things if you aren't doing them. You know what I mean? It's like, what are your gifts? What are those things that you're just a natural at? And it's not, well, again, it's not worrying about, well, I may know how to play the guitar, but I have this little natural. I used to know someone who was just a natural at piano. Like, didn't really know how to play any one thing, but just had the just natural coordination. I mean, that's what I have years of experience in music, and that was one of the things that I found really difficult, was that left hand, right hand separation. And they did it so easy. But they were just like, oh, well, I'm not as good as such and such, and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, stop that. It's like, again, this is someone, I was like, this is me with musical background telling you how amazing you are. So I think it's like, don't sleep on your gifts, whatever that is. And the thing is, you'll get better with time as you transform. So, I think just a little something to think about with this lunation. A lot that I think just kind of meditate on there. But let's go ahead and get into your general energy of the day. Let's kind of shake things up, because we got hexagram 51, which is thunder. And this is the trigrams for this one is thunder over thunder. So we got a lot of a lot of noise that's going on here. And you got changing line 4. So if you want to look a little bit more into that, that's the line that you want to look to for this one. But let's get into this, because the line for this is thunder falling into the mud. And one thing that I get for this, when you hear thunder, that's a warning sign that a storm's coming. Usually, if I remember correctly, it's like I remember I think I hearing as a kid where when you see lightning, you count how many seconds is until the thunder makes it sound, and then that's an indicator of how far the storm is away for you, or how many miles the storm is away from you. And I thought that was really fascinating to think about. I'm not quite sure how true that is. But the thunder can be an omen, of a storm and coming. And that's not always a bad omen. I think that is something to keep in mind there with the thunder. But I do think this one is saying of looking. There's a warning sign of the potentiality of getting stuck, of falling into the mud, because the rain will come, the ground's gonna get moist, and sometimes, like I said, like that doesn't have to be a bad thing. We like when the rain comes and it's saturating and nourishing the earth, and then the lightning is infusing it with those ions, but I think it's another thing when it's just like, hey, but there is a chance that you can, especially when we're talking about with Aquarius. There may be looking at something where you find yourself stuck. Maybe you've been feeling like you can't, you've hit a wall, you can't make any progress. And, I was talking with someone about this. They're really kind of heavily focused on career things. And I'm like, you know what? If you can't make any progress on your career space right now, there are 11 other houses for you to focus on. Focus on your family who's been wanting to get you out of this funk. Focus on your self-expression. Focus on yourself. Focus on your health. Focus on maybe groups. There's so many other things, especially when you find yourself stuck. It's like sometimes the best action is to just do something. Do something else though, to really kind of change it up, because then that could help you get a new perspective. You may be doing something and then you get that aha moment, that lightning flash. It's just like, oh my gosh, that's it. So that's just one thing that I'm staying there. But I also think too that this thunder could maybe even be the realization of that one is stuck. And that even in itself can be very freeing, which I know maybe sound kind of contradictory, but maybe you've been just kind of turning the wheels for a while and you just thought like, oh, I'm just not pushing hard enough. I'm just not pushing hard enough. And she's like, no, I think I'm just like I may just not be in a rut, and again, it's not letting that defeat you, but letting that be as a sign where it's like, okay, I have to take different actions. I need to do something different here, so that I just don't keep, because it's like, I imagine like when you get, if you've ever gotten a vehicle stuck in the mud, this guy has, but if you ever have that happen, the more that you just keep grinding pressing the gas and grinding the wheels, it's just going to keep sinking, and then you're going to be really, really stuck. So yeah, just some things I think to just kind of think about with this energy. Again, that fixed energy does have that propensity for that, but it doesn't mean that you can't get out of it. You can put just as much effort to dig yourself out of this hole, whatever that looks like for you. So just some things to think about. Well, we'll see what we get as we get into the tarot here. But last couple of things here. These readings that I do, they're not gender-specific readings, so apply these energies to people as they make sense for your situations. And then I'm going to be talking about different topics that's going to cover like finances, health, legal matters, romance. But this is by no means professional advice. Talk to your doctors, your financial assistants, advisors, your lawyers, therapists, all those good people doing that great work. But I'm going to pull 6 cards, and they're going to cover different themes. And considering that you got a changing, or the changing line was line 4, I'm going to get a clarifier for line 4 there, which I'll explain what that card is in a moment. But let's talk about get into your first energy here, which speaks about any sort of like short-term money matters, how we maybe been spending our time. We'll see what that's looking like. Interesting. All right, so you got the 10 of Cups in reverse. And this to me is like maybe there was an investment that was made and it's not quite coming to fruition, like maybe quite as we thought it would. Or it's like when you go to buy something and you get it and it's just like, it looks like the greatest thing. Like if you like, I'm thinking of like when they have like new, as a kid, I'm thinking like when they'd have new flavors of chips come out and they'd have like, it was like this like taco flavor, just for them to start out a flavor. It's like, ooh, that sounds really good. And then you go to try them, just like, ooh, what kind of taco is this? It's just like that expectations versus reality here. And this to me, it feels like there's some sort of like dissatisfaction that's going on with the 10 of Cups. Maybe there's been maybe you've been investing your time in like a, maybe even like in a relationship, possibly maybe you've been spending a lot of money on like dates and going on different things, and it's not just not yielding that fruition, and it's just like, you know what, maybe the dream that I thought this was, or it's like, you know, maybe I need to reevaluate this, maybe I need to allocate my energies elsewhere, possibly. You know, that might be even something too. Maybe there's something in the way that, again, maybe you're spending your time or your resources that are keeping you from getting to this wish fulfillment here, this sort of whatever, this dream that you're trying to realize there. The Ten of Cups is a bit of a, I think, a bit of a peculiar card. You know, it's, you know, sometimes I think we could think we want something, and when we get it, then it's just like, now it's not, it's not to say that it's not special, but it's like, okay, you get, it's like it's like how, you know, you build up to the marriage, you know, you're beginning, this has been like a whole day, you had a really wonderful time, and, you know, ideally it was a wonderful marriage or wonderful wedding, but now we just go back to the next day, it's just like, okay, now we're just two people who are married doing this life thing. And that's like, can be a bit disillusioning, like kind of just like a, oh, so now what? And that's what this is kind of giving me, this sort of just like, okay, now what? So, and that might be something too where you think it's like, if it's been a lot of that maybe dissatisfaction, and wherever maybe you've been investing your time or your money, it's maybe sometimes to change that. You know, that's just something there. And this could be even just like, you know, maybe you've been spending your money on different like foods or different things, just like maybe impulse things, and it's just like, you know, this isn't doing it anymore. That's a, you know, a little bit of kind of like even kind of more Five of Cups energy, but yeah, something I think is just like a kind of changing there with the Ten of Cups. Maybe with a certain vision we saw, it's just like changing maybe how we're investing in that. So just something to think about there. Let's get into your next card, which talks about any sort of like medical matters. Let's see how the body's doing. I'm with it. So you have the High Priestess here. And, you know, I would say with medical matters, I would say one, I just got a message of maybe you're noticing different signals in the body. The body might be a bit more sensitive to things. And I think the High Priestess is always one I think of just like really kind of tuning, being more quiet. This is the you know, the moon, or the moon is the, or the High Priestess represents the moon. And yeah, there's something about tuning maybe even into just the more subtleties of things. Maybe your senses have been heightened, or maybe there's just a need to take care of those senses a little bit more. Maybe if you surround yourself with a lot of strong odors, maybe that's maybe wanting to switch to more kind of lighter fragrances, or maybe even the way that you're tasting things. Maybe just like switching up how you're seasoning things, maybe using more kind of fresh herbs, or even just like the textures of stuff. I'm just going through the senses, maybe even paying attention to how loud the music maybe that you're listening to, you know, the volume there, the type of music that you might be listening to. Just the High Priestess is giving me just like really kind of high sensitivity, you know, maybe be able to really feel a lot of signals through the body here. And that's going to be even just beneficial for you just tuning into your health in general. There may be something here. The High Priestess is a bit secretive, and there may be something where if you're dealing with something behind the scenes, maybe you don't want to upset the family dynamic, you know. And I don't think that is you keeping secret just to be just like, you know, like you're keeping something from it, but it's just like maybe you don't want to worry that maybe it's like getting a bit more information. It's like if you've been feeling something for a while, it's like if we talk to people who maybe aren't professionals, then that could get the imagination running wild, or if we're maybe do like sort of like self-diagnosing. So if there's something that you've been maybe sensing for a while that you've been maybe kind of putting off, this could be just like an invitation to go talk with a doctor, do like a checkup, maybe talk with an energy healer, whatever that may be looking like for you, however you take care of yourself. But yeah, I think that I mean, wow, I even got just like an image with the eyes I didn't mention. That's the only sense I didn't mention. So making sure maybe like the eyes, like maybe cutting down on screen time in the evening, or even like when you're starting off the day, like letting it just be greeted. Like instead of letting the first light be the phone light, let it be maybe just some daylight. You know, even if the sun's not out, just letting the light of the day kind of hit the eyes first, just kind of adjusting to things in this kind of natural cycle here. So. Okay. But yeah, that's the only thing I got for that one there. Let's get into your third card here, which talks about any sort of like legal matters or any sort of like social affairs. Let's see what's going on there. So you have the Fool here, and the Fool's been following you around quite a bit now. And I find when you have, especially it was coming up in the money matters for the first couple of times, but when I feel with this Fool, that there could be a new invitation maybe for like some legal affairs, like as far as like maybe you're wanting to sign a patent, or maybe you're looking into like trademarking things, or something where you're signing some sort of like contract. This could be maybe I'm getting a new client, possibly even like whatever that might look like, or maybe you're looking to invest in some, maybe you're going to become someone's client, something like that. Yeah, that made sense. But also too, I think that there's an invitation even just for like social affairs. This could be a time to just like get yourself out there. You know, maybe, you know, we were talking about even in the Sabian symbols, you know, finding that spiritual brotherhood, sisterhood, just group, you know, group that you want to be a part of, you know, something where they can maybe help you foster those gifts that you've inherited. You know, that might be something that's coming through there. But overall, it feels really kind of optimistic here with this Fool. I'm feeling really solid vibes about it. It even in like the legal matters, this could be where maybe something is a case is like maybe kind of wrapping up here, whatever that may, whatever court thing may be, and now we're getting ready to start this new chapter. Now that thing is behind us there. So that might be something that's coming through with this Fool. But yeah, yeah, I think that's all I got there for you with the Fool. Now let's go ahead and get to your fourth card here, which talks about any sort of like romantic matters, marriage, things along those lines, relationships. Ooh, there's my girl. You got the Empress here. And you know what? This may be a time where one, the Empress is a very abundant figure, and I think that this could be just a real kind of basic level, just enjoying in the abundance of your relationship, the family, the things that it gives. And maybe there's even a more wanting to give to something. Possibly here's what I'm getting with the Empress. This could be maybe you coming across your Empress, and again, this is not a gender specific reading, but just finding that person that really just kind of not just helps you grow, but you help them grow too. I think with the Empress there, because the Empress is Venus, you know, and Venus is deals with that sort of like building up look at that Venus cliff down there, deals with like relationships, attraction, things along those lines. This could be, if you're looking for a relationship, this could be a great time for you, maybe feeling more attractive, maybe feeling like this would be like a really kind of putting your best self on display. You know, really, we were talking about that, the peacock parading around the old castle. This could be a time, let your tail feathers fly. You know, put something on that's going to help you build the world that you want to do. Maybe even with that Ten of Cups, it's like, you know, when we were going back to that, maybe we were sensing that you're wanting a change, maybe wanting to share the love a little bit more here. You know, so that's something that can happen there. You know, the Empress too, there could be maybe this energy of, I mean, you know, she's fecundity. So maybe there is this, like maybe there's a new member that's coming to the family, is expanding possibly there. And again, it could be like a marriage. This could be maybe a pregnancy. And this maybe not be maybe in your like immediate family. I'm even getting like, That's interesting. Maybe you're even meeting relationships through the people that you're, through the family. So that's a little something interesting that's coming through with that Empress. Let's get a clarifier on her. See what's going on with that. I'm with it. You got the Page of Wands here. That's a very passionate card. And I was even thinking too about the creative aspect of the Empress. And not just in children. Maybe this could be where you're thinking about a new future possibly here. You got some new ideas that you're wanting to manifest with the Page of Wands, and it's just like, how can your relationship support that growth, that again, that fecundity that's going on there. But the Page of Wands is news. So if you are single, this could be a time where if you put yourself out there, you might attract an Empress who doesn't want, or you might be the Empress that people are attracting. That might be another thing too. You might be the gift that they've been waiting for. So don't sell yourself short. That's something I think to think about there too with this Empress here. But I think that this is a time to really more feel in your kind of creative power here. The Empress and even the Priestess. There's even like a sexual energy that's there, and I think that it's yeah, just some real kind of deep creativity that I think is going on here. That's really trying to come to the forefront. This is like a fervent energy even. So this could be where maybe even inviting even a little bit more romance maybe into your relationships possibly. The Page of Wands is an ecstatic figure of one full of vitality and just passion, and maybe almost to the maybe can be a little over, but who doesn't love a Page of Wands? I enjoy the Page of Wands, so, but just something I think to think about there. It's like but almost that High Priestess Empress. It's like you're sensing. I'd even like explore yourself a little bit as far as like sensing something that's maybe different in you that's trying to blossom in you possibly there. That's an interesting energy. That might even be something that either like you're trying to get out of someone else too, or maybe someone's trying to evoke out of you. So that's very, very interesting energy, very stimulating energy there. That's kind of coming through with that Empress. But let's go ahead and get into your next card here, which talks about any sort of like if you have any like immediately pressing affairs that you're looking to get questions or get answers to. Oh, well, there's the Emperor. So let's get it going. That's wow. You know what? For whatever the situation is, the Emperor is one that takes charge. The one that is going to be, the Emperor has armor underneath his cloak. He's my card of like, if you stay ready, you don't got to get ready. And this could be the time where it's time to get ready, for whatever this is. If you're ready to, if you've been getting something prepped, let's say you're like a new creative endeavor, like getting ready to, preparing yourself to receive that. What is that? How do you look getting ready to sit on your throne? You know what I mean? That's what the Emperor is giving me here. A real kind of taking charge for whatever this is, in romance, in your new social events, in this new maybe intuitive nudges that you might be getting, or even if you're not feeling, something with the finances. If it's just like, if it's not like things aren't doing what you want to, it's like, okay, how do I get this thing in order? Because the Emperor is Aries. This is the initiator. And love that. Venus in Aries. Venus is in Aries. And it's a little more forward than Venus is used to. Venus is either more receptive in getting things in Taurus, or is more of the kind of tactful initiator in the kind of like charismatic energy of Libra. And Aries can be charismatic too, but it's different. It's definitely more forward. It's more individual. It's not really necessarily caring how the individual is going to receive, or the other is going to receive it. But I think in that, it's even like how I was talking about with how the peacocks make that noise, where they still find the people who are going to receive that song, who resonate with that song, that call that they have here. So that's what this could be about, really just kind of being in your creative energy, in this intuitive energy, in this sort of fresh, kind of vibrant feeling that you're getting here. You know, you're coming into contact with higher entities there, higher forces. You know, even when we're going back to that Sabian symbol, there's can be a higher form of existence of what you're doing right now. It's like literally taking that to that next level there with the Emperor. Yeah, and feeling in control of it too, of the direction of where you're going. I'm with that. And it's almost like you're going in, like I'm just thinking too, the priestess is card 2, the empress is card 3, the emperor's card 4. So it's like you're moving along the way here. And we got the fool. The only thing we're missing in this one is kind of the magician, and maybe that's what's coming down. It's like maybe you're sensing all this stuff, but it's like, how do we manifest that? The idea is there for that Aquarius energy. Because the fool can be elemental air. So, you know, there's a lot kind of coming through with that one. So, and the energies are really starting to peak here. We're getting into some really kind of positive aspects that are going to be happening. We're going to be a lot of Gemini energy. So be looking at what themes are coming up for you, especially like the Gemini, the Aries portions of your chart. Check that out. But let's get into your last card, which talks about if you're looking, it's like the destiny or the karma of a situation. So if you're looking for what's going to be the results of something, let's see what's going on there, or what's going to be the outcome of a certain situation. Oh, major city. All right. So you have the lovers here. Oh my gosh, the Gemini energy. So literally. So I'm going to take that right there as a sign again. This is a time, you know, if we're thinking about the outcome of a situation. A choice is, I think it's going to is going to be made regardless, and I think that it's just coming to the piece of like this is not it doesn't feel like an energy because Gemini is active. We're in a lot of we're moving away from all of that. We were in a lot of heavy like water, even a little bit of earth energy, but now we're getting ready to get into like fire and air. And I think that this lovers here is not being afraid of, you know, the choices that you're making, you know, maybe along the way. It's not necessarily like there may be mistakes and things that are going to be made along the way, but mistakes are feedback. That's how we tweak things. That's how we learn things. That's how we can't know what we don't know until we try it. And so that's what this lovers is giving me here. It's like not being afraid, whatever the outcome is going to be, you know, make sure that it's in alignment. You know, that's something too. The Gemini, when you think about them as the twins, the lovers, Gemini, I think about it not just about that relationship between like you and me or, you know, whatever conversation. This is the conversation between you and Source. Because Gemini is ruled by Mercury, and Mercury is how we understand the divine, how we communicate the divine energies that we're receiving, these intuitive nudges, these, you know, with these urges to try something, to do something, to make these changes. So this could be even just a great time too, just to check in with Source, to really kind of be bare in front of this in front of spirit, in front of the angel, and just like, okay, is this decision in alignment, and then just kind of trusting where that's going. But and I even got a message here with this. It's like, even when you feel stuck, there are more choices than you think. You know, but I think that it's just like sometimes we have to remove ourselves from when a choice it's made, and there's no need to like fret on it. You know, all we can do is make the most of this thing. I don't think there's necessarily any such a thing as maybe like a wrong or right answer. It's just like, how do we make the best of whatever decision that we've made there. Because hindsight always is just like, man, if I'd have known that, I'd have done this. Well, you didn't know that. And there's going to be another situation where you don't know something. You're going to have to do the same thing. So, and all you could do is just call upon this hindsight. So that's just another thing that's coming through there. Very, very fascinating reading. Very spiritual. But you got a ton of majors here. So the angels got your back. This is time, definitely. High Priestess, lovers, communicate with that energy. But let's get some advice from Saturn. Oh, look at that. Page of Wands is out to play here. We got another page. So let's go ahead and switch over. So to me, there's news a coming. You know, even with your hexagram, that falling in the mud, the news can be that you can get, even if you've been feeling stuck, you can get out of this unstuck energy. The page is not one, especially the Page of Wands, is not one that's going to be defeated. If anything, the Page of Wands is surprisingly aggressive. And I think that the page here is remembering that excitement for that fire when you feel the changes are coming, that's a time to really like, okay, what do I want from this change? It's not one to, I think, sure, like of course there may be some nervousness that I think can be expected of that, and that's fine, but I think that there's something more exciting that's coming on the horizon here with this Page of Wands. Even with, like, I'm thinking about like how Saturn is moving into the sign of its fall in Aries, and a planet in its fall, it has a tendency for some of its lower expressions to come out there. It tends to fall into some traps, and where Aries is the initiator, likes to go, Saturn's like, go where? Like, how you gonna go? Go, you know, there's rules to this thing, and Aries is just like, I ain't got time for that. So, but even with that energy, I think that's something to be excited about, because at least, even if we're working with maybe some limitations, Saturn's still gonna work with us, you know, because it's just like, how do we keep that stamina? You know, where it's like, there are going to be times maybe where we come into doubt, where it's just like, are we sure? And then we have the breakthrough, and then we do it all over again. So it's just like, even when you're in it, it's just like, you know what, this may not feel great, but I know I'm going to get out of this. You know, I'm going to get out of this, and then when I get that breakthrough, man, it's going to feel really, really good. So, yeah, that's exciting. And I keep just getting news coming through. So this could be, you know, whatever you're intending, like this could be where you're hearing an answer for something here. That's what I'm really getting with this Page of Wands here. So that's all I got for you. a lot to think about, I think, here with this. A lot to think about, but not one where I think you're overwhelming yourself. Just trust your intuition, always. But if you like that, if anything resonated with you, give it a thumbs up. And share this if you know somebody who can give you some nuggets of wisdom from this. And then subscribe there, you Empress. Hit that bell button to get you High Priestess, Emperor, whatever you want to be. Hit that bell button to get notified on all these videos each day. And then I'm going to post for your surprise cards here. But if you want to work with these exciting energies, or maybe you want to get a tarot card reading to get more in depth about what kind of personal energies are coming up for you, or if you want to get like an astrology reading to see the transits that are getting ready to come up, how to work with those energies. Maybe you have your sun in Gemini and you're getting ready to come up on maybe like a solar return. You want to see what intentions maybe you're building up on your foundation, whatever that looks like for you. Down in the description box, I have a list for my for the services that I provide. The prices are there for them. And if you have any questions about how to get, you know, how that process looks like, definitely reach out to me. You know, I have my email down there as well, and yeah, be glad to help, and glad to, you know, be looking forward to connecting. So, I'm with it. But also too, if you want to go over to my other channel, Alchemist 8, I do weekly videos talking about the transits and how to work with the energies. And yeah, next week is gonna be exciting. I'm gonna be talking about that transit Saturn moving into Aries, and I'm excited about that one. And also, I do these videos where I talk about different and series, and I'm going to be getting back on them here soon. I've been having a lot of things going on behind the scenes, but I have these videos where I do talk about different celestial bodies in different signs and different houses. So that's available for you as well. And they're all in neat playlists for you there. And if you have any requests that you want to see, comment in the video sections, and I will be sure to add them in the queue. So, but let's go ahead and get to your love that. Let's get into your surprise card here, which is the Karma card, which is the Empress energy. This is card number 3 here. And, karma, this karma is the consequences of actions. And that doesn't necessarily have to just mean a bad thing. It's just like with your card number 6, the destiny or the karma of a situation. Choices, we make the choices in life depending on where we're at, on our journey with the tools that we have. And I don't think that karma doesn't have to be looked at as like this punishing thing. I think that sometimes we can look at it as just like, just like of how, like maybe I've been dealt like a bad hand and I can't do anything with this, or I got this bad luck. And it's just like, there are people who have, I'm thinking about certain placements, for example. You have maybe like a bunch of planets in fall, or maybe a bunch of oppositions, things like that, and they go to achieve really great things. And you'll have someone who has a lot of flow and a lot of ease. You could think of like, oh my gosh, you could achieve all of this, but they're cool with like where things are at. We like the flow, we like the ease. Maybe we got Jupiter in it, maybe in like sad. I know this person actually who's got like Jupiter and Venus in Pisces, so I'm just like, that's just an abundant pocket. So they're just kind of going with the motions. But there's nothing. I think there's no wrong way of doing this journey as long as you show up in your alignment. You show up in your true soul calling. Like, this choice was one that was made between me and spirit. And if things aren't feeling like, if you've been really feeling in some sort of kind of struggles there, this can be just reflecting again on the choices that you've made, and what mindset were you in, and what are some things maybe that you can change about that, so that we can shift this cycle here. And it's not to say it's going to shift overnight, but with time and you start working on these things, it does start to make a visible change. Like, the trajectory goes in a different way. So yeah, I think it's like, don't look at karma as a sentence. Look at it as just like as a result. There's a better word I'm thinking of that. Not like as a result, but as just like an indicator of just like, okay, this is what I've accumulated thus far on this journey. This doesn't have to go into past lives. I think sometimes we can take the weight of the past, and that can get too much into the present interaction. The past is one where you call upon wisdom. I don't think you discard it, but when the past starts weighing you down, then it's not. I think it's not being utilized constructively, or it's just become just like dead weight. And if anything, then we need to kind of reevaluate that. But that's a conversation for another day. But I think this card too, since we're talking about the being relation to the Empress, one last thought. I don't think karma necessarily, it doesn't have to be, again, just like a bad thing. What kind of karma, I think maybe the question is, what kind of karma do you want to accumulate? Because when you do a certain thing, this thing happens. So what were to happen and especially if this is something that you don't like, what if I were to do a different thing, and it keeps you getting the things that I like? And it may be something like, and it's not to be confused where even when we're in the alignment, there's still work that's needing to be done. It's never just like an easy, so Saturn still exists. There's still work, but it's just the results are different. If I have to do a lot on this journey, I might as well get the most out of it. You know what I mean? So get your world, in a sense, which that's Saturn energy. But yeah, I think that's all I got for you there. Very fascinating. But until next time, stay mindful out there. Keep eyes on that moon, and I will catch you on the next one, Mars Day.